Tuesday, May 16th, 2023, meeting of the Connington School District Board of Directors is called to order. Mr. Priori, as one of the guests of honor this evening, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you lead us in the pledge?
Oh, sure.
Will you sing it?
It's funny you asked that. No. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Mark. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Frank?
He's not able to be here tonight.
Director Honcher?
Here.
Director Apple?
Here.
Director Semsek?
Here.
Director Puskar? Here. Director O'Brien?
Here.
Director Zelensky?
Here.
Director Vogliano? Here. Director Schreiber?
Here. At the beginning of each meeting, we invite the public to ask any questions or comment on any items that are on our agenda. So does anybody in the public tonight have any questions or comments on the agenda items? If not, there's a time at the end for general questions. We'll move on. Minutes from previous meetings, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from the voting meeting of April 25th, 2023, and minutes from the committee meeting on May 9th, 2023. Do I have a motion for those two items?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Reports. I report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we talked about potential litigation matters, real estate sale, and personnel items. And I will now turn to our superintendent for a superintendent report.
Thank you, Director Schreiber. We have two administrative reports before the superintendent report. The first is from food service with Mr. Rassicott, who has a presentation for us on the board here. Ryan.
All right, so I was here in December, and this is kind of an update from December to now. So we're going to go over our staffing, some of the growth that we've had, community engagement, and some of the next steps that we're looking forward to. As far as staffing goes, new hires since the last time we spoke, we've hired 2 people at the high school. We still have 5 open positions here at the high school, and we are fully staffed at Carnegie, and we need 2 more people at Crafton. We'll actually need 6 people total after our driver position is going to be coming open. We've reached out, Aramark reposted the ad on Indeed. We got like 30 applicants, and we were all excited, and then only 3 of them responded, so no luck there. Moving on, training. We've been working on food safety, sanitation training, National School Lunch Program training, offer versus serve. Our group was able to get together and do the Run, Hide, Fight training by Mr. Jones, and we're still planning on Serve Safe certification for all of our staff, hopefully before next school year. Recognition, we were able to recognize our staff a few times this year. We provided a catered lunch for them in December. For Employee Appreciation Day on March 1st, we bought them little to-go cups and a little keychain. It was really nice. And then May 5th, just a couple weeks ago, was National School Lunch Hero Day, so they were recognized on that day as well. Okay, so here's our meal participation update. If you look at lunch, we have done 128,466 lunches year to date. Last year at this time it was 124,000, and there were more service days in that time period. So the number that we look at is that 65% is our participation rate for lunch. So we have 65% of the students are eating lunch here. Breakfast is doing well too. There's a little bit of room for improvement there. We're at 42% this year, 44% last year. Last year they were doing breakfast differently. They were handing it out to like every student, so those numbers are a little bit skewed, but there's room for improvement in breakfast for next year. And then the meal equivalents, we're we're doing better than last year with that as well, 7,425 versus right around 5,000. All right, next page. Okay, this is kind of our financial overview. If you look at our total meals for this school year, 219,049, which our revenue was 730,333. Our cost of sales is our food cost, 246,114. That equals out to about $1.12 per meal. So breakfast and lunch, we're averaging $1.12. That's with, we're using some SCA funds to offset some of the costs, but it's $1.12 right now, so we're doing pretty good with that. It's under our budget. The client return, so that's where we're sitting with our profit right now, 131,970. Get on to the next slide there. Community engagement. So we've been partnering all year long with the free store down at Carnegie and Mission Pittsburgh to help provide gallons of milk and loaves of bread. So we've been able to provide 1,560 gallons of milk and loaves of bread throughout the school year to them down there, and they're doing all the work, handing them out. We're just helping with the ordering and all that kind of stuff, but it's been a good partnership and they're doing great things down there. We're also looking at partnering with Jack Kobustek and the St. John's Church again this summer to provide packed lunches for people in the community throughout this summer. More details will follow with that. All right. So some of the things we were able to do this year, the fresh fruit and vegetable program, we offered that at Carnegie. That ran from October through April. And during that time, we served 24,400 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables as an additional snack. So they had breakfast and lunch, and then in the afternoon, 3 days a week, they were offered a different fresh fruit and vegetable. And they had some different items that, you know, they don't get to try all the time. So some of the items like papaya, watermelon radishes, heirloom tomatoes. And we got a lot of good feedback from the students and from the teachers. So we look forward to doing that again next year. And we're also very excited to announce that we qualified for this at Crafton as well. They've never had it at Crafton. So we did qualify and we applied for it for Crafton. And so we look forward to doing that at Crafton next year. The USDA has proposed some changes to the nutrition standards moving forward. These changes, if they're put in place, they are going to have an effect on how we're able to operate and limit certain menu items that we can offer. One of the first things they're looking at doing is reducing the amount of sugar in cereals, cereal bars, yogurts, flavored milk. This will have an impact on us because a lot of our grab-and-go breakfast items, you know, those are our big sellers, especially at Carnegie. We do breakfast in the classroom, so it's a lot of cereal bars and things like that. So they're looking at reducing the sugar over. It's a phased approach starting in 2025 and going through 2027. The next thing they're looking at doing is limiting flavored milk to grades 9 through 12 only. So they're looking at having K through 8 only being allowed white milk. And if our school district, I mean, we probably serve 90% chocolate milk. And so we're a little concerned with that students won't drink milk at all. You know, if they limit that down and they can only have white, we're worried that they're not going to get any milk. So
before you go to another slide,
yeah.
Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
the kids in elementary school are going to surely protest to go from 90% chocolate milk drinkers.
Right.
Is there any way to?
So this is still just in the beginning phases. It was open for public comment. We were able to push out an email to the community. It was open until May 10th for public to be able to comment on it. I don't foresee that one, the flavored milk one, going through.
Oh,
I hope,
okay.
I hope not.
Okay.
These are all just proposed.
Suggestions,
Yeah, these are
okay.
suggestions of what they would like to do. But like I said, this was open for public comment until May 10th.
And
so-
poor kids,
Yeah.
fat-free or low-fat.
Right.
What's low-fat? 1%?
1%, yeah.
Get out of
So these are scamming orders.
here. That's sad.
So
What's
then,
it to life if you can't eat and drink what you want?
I agree with that. Moving forward, the sodium reduction, we've already started that process. This year was target 1. Next year is target 1A. Those ones are set in stone. They're looking at adding additional reductions in sodium over the next 5 years. And just as an example, in grades 9 through 12, for a week for lunch, they're allowed 1,420 milligrams of sodium for the entire week. Right this year, next year it's 1,280. So it gets difficult to write a menu that works, that fits all the criteria, and for the manufacturers to catch up with, making their products compliant. And then the last thing, everything right now, whole grains, currently 80% of our menu has to be whole grain. So that gives us a little bit of leeway to offer pasta that's not whole grain, and some pizza crusts that aren't whole grain throughout the week. They're looking to change that to make it a little bit stricter as well. So we're looking at, there's more information if you go on the website there that's listed, and you'll be able to read a little bit more about it. Okay, next slide. All right, so equipment upgrades, we talked about the last time I was here. We've still been looking over that. I'm working with Al to go over all the equipment and decide on what we need, any needs that we may have now, and then in the future, some of the things that we're looking at. Some of our kitchen equipment dates back a good ways, so some of our convection ovens and things like that over the next few years we'll have to look at. We did order, or we're looking at getting new hot food serving wheels for both Carnegie and Crafton for next school year. But we'll continue to work on a plan for equipment. Some plans for next year, again, a lot of this stuff, we're definitely gonna do, a couple of the items are contingent upon, hiring and staffing and things like that, but we're gonna push as hard as we can next year. So again, all schools next year qualify for the community eligibility provision, so we'll be offering free breakfast and lunch throughout the district again next year. So that's a big thing. Aramark, this school year coming up, has introduced new regional menus to all the schools, so different menu items and things like that that we haven't tried before. Some of the items, like you see, is sriracha, crunch cheeseburger, loaded cheeseburger, mac and cheese. A lot of kids like bowls, anything in a bowl, They like the mashed potato, they like the KFC bowl. So there's a big push towards that. We're excited to try some new menu items next year. One of the things I've wanted to do since I started, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to do it next year, is 2 hot menu items for Crafton and Carnegie. Right now, they just get 1 hot item, and then the other choice is cold. So next year, we're gonna have a menu that has 2 different hot items, so some more options for them. A big push this year has been the deli bar at the high school. It requires a lot of staff for us to open it. We have run it a couple of times, just on, 1 day a week here and there, and the students love it, so we're definitely gonna try our best to open that. A lot of good feedback from that. And then some of the other items, so food waste reduction initiatives, and trying to train the staff on food waste, managing our food waste, tracking our waste by weight. We do get a lot of waste just because the students take stuff and then throw it into the garbage, and we don't want to have that happen, so we need to train the staff and train the students and let them know what they need to take and what they don't need to take. And then again, next year, hopefully, more increased student engagement. We just got to the point probably last month where I've been freed up to not be as hands-on in the kitchen. So I've been able to go to Crafton and see the kids down there and work. There's a lot that I want to do, and there's a lot of room to grow down there. So I'm excited about that, get more student engagement, do some more taste testings and promotional items and things like that. And really just try to give the students what they want. That's it. And then the last slide is just some pictures. We were able to cater the senior awards dinner last week, so there's some pictures from that. There's a picture of some we've been offering a lot of this, so fresh strawberries, a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables at all the schools, at the elementary especially, so that's one of the elementary schools there. And then that's a margarita pizza with fresh mozzarella and basil. And then we have been able to do some limited time offering type special items. So that was an Asian chicken salad that we ran, and it sold really well as well. So we've been busy.
A quick question.
Go ahead.
If 65% of the students here eat one of your lunches,
Yes.
what does the other 35%? Do they bring
Say that
bag
they
lunches?
would be packing from home. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody's eating something.
Yeah, everybody
Okay.
eats. Yeah, I mean, as far as we can see, yeah, it's a good percentage. 65% is a good percentage. Any other questions? No?
Quick question for you.
Yes.
You mentioned the kids at Carnegie really like the fresh fruit program.
Yes.
Can you expand on that? Like, how did that
Just
work?
some, I mean, from the teachers and, I talked to, we actually, one of the people that work for me, her son goes down there and he comes home every day and just talking about, oh, I really like this, or I hated this. It's just a lot of different stuff, but what I've seen is we go through a lot more, during the lunch period, we go through a lot more fresh fruit and vegetables at Carnegie as compared to Crafton right now. And I would attribute that to their having more access. They're seeing different things through that fresh fruit and vegetable program, and they're trying all kinds of things. So, I mean, it's just been exciting for them.
So they're reacting
They're
positively
reacting positively, yeah.
to the variation
Oh,
that you're
yeah,
offering.
absolutely.
Good.
Cool. So a quick follow-up point, though. I saw your new menu items, which
Yes.
is really exciting.
Yes,
Partially, one of the great benefits of our district is we have such a great diverse community. We have lots of different ethnicities,
right.
and those ethnicities bring great food options that I might not be aware of, or you might not be aware
Right.
of. But if we could find ways to engage our communities and bring some of their
Well, that's,
great flavors and varieties to our
that's
cafeteria,
something
that'd be
that's
awesome.
definitely on my radar as well. And there are tons, I have access to tons of different recipes and things like that. And I'd like to, like I said, do more taste testings down there, get other people to try that type of food and see, see where we go. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rescott, thank you. Yeah, very fortunate to have good, solid leadership in the food service department. Mr. Rescott does a terrific job at working with the kids, trying to get menu items on the list, while also being able to balance all the federal requirements that are necessary to design a weekly menu for our kids. And I think that's one thing that would be a challenge for many people, would be to take a look at the number of regulations that he has to abide by, with certain percentage of this, certain percentage of that, how many days a week this can be served. It's quite a challenge, and so to put forth a menu that you do, he does an outstanding job, so thank you for what you do for our students. Next up, with the superintendent's report, on the board agenda this evening, we have 10 school board policies that are either up for revision from existing policy, and there are, I believe, 2 policies in here that are new. A lot of the information we get from being a membership of PSBA. PSBA works very closely with their solicitors to make sure that they are reviewing new school law and regulations, and then updates board policies and give us recommendations to move forward on those. The first 2 policies up there, School Board Policy 137 and 137.2, are both revisions to, or I'm sorry, the first is an update to the existing policy, and then the next 2 are new policies themselves. Home education program, basically what the home education programs do, it allows students to learn from home with a supervised instructor. The new regulations require that the supervisor and the adults that are living in the household with the child are required to fill out an affidavit that demonstrates that they have not been convicted of any criminal offenses that are outlined in the school code. So it's more or less a protection that goes out to the home education students that would be afforded to our regular education students that attend school on a daily basis. The participation then in extracurricular activities and participation in CTCs, basically what this affords the opportunity for home education students is they are now able to attend school for 1/4 of the school day. So at the secondary level, that would be equivalent to basically 2 periods. Within the policy, it does illustrate that if, for example, a course was offered at the very beginning of the day and at the very end of the day, they would have to provide their own transportation or supervision during the day to supervise their child while they attended school here. Our approach to this will be if we have classes, maybe first period and third period, if there's room in a study hall that banks in between, we would be able to allow that child to stay here to take advantage of the 2 courses. But outside of that, they would have to provide their own supervision. There'll be administrative regulations that will be put in place in regard to how the home education student would be scheduled, provided that there are seats available to them. And then also, it holds those students accountable for abiding by all school board policy, all procedures, and then also any prerequisite information that would come along with that. They may also access district transportation, provided that it is the regular transportation that we would run. So we wouldn't run any special routes for home education students. If they can catch the regular bus, get here for 2 periods, then they definitely have to get a ride back home. So those are 3 policies that have to do with the home education program.
Can I ask a question about the first one? So, we're talking about homeschool kids, not necessarily kids who are doing our own cyber charge.
Correct. Yeah, so home education is, you have to get a supervisor of the educational program.
Yeah.
They provide all the instruction for the child. There's a lot of paperwork that they fill out with us. They have to give us the curriculum, they have to give us the grades, they have to give us the updates. And so we monitor that program.
Right, so as a, for instance, one of the child's parents is the supervisor.
Correct.
They make a plan, they have a curriculum, whether they purchase that from existing or something like that, and then it comes up here for you folks to, or, right, so my question then is, so adults in the household could include parents, and I mean, if the kid's living there and the parent has had a criminal offense, that makes it kind of impossible, right?
It makes it, yes, if it is the parent that's delivering that instruction, then that parent, by school code, then is disqualified from being a supervisor of the educational program.
But it says and adults in the house.
Right, and the adults in the household, right. So if they're living with an adult who has a criminal offense, and those criminal offenses are generally around sexual misconduct, sale and delivery of drugs. There's several that are in school code that disqualify anybody from being involved. So I think what they're doing here, based on new school code, is making sure that that home environment is acceptable during the educational process. But you're right, they would be excluded from doing it, but the child is still able to live in the household, which is a little bit of a dichotomy.
It just seems a little bit, doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
But that's an example of one that comes right out of an updated regulation in legislation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I understand.
And then they're able to participate in extracurriculars like sports, things like that.
Correct.
But then Parkway West would be more than equivalent to 2 periods.
Right. So they're, for the academic courses, it's a quarter of the day, but then if it is the CTC, they're able to attend the full CTC program. So if they went out there for anything, diesel mechanics, they'd be able to attend the full day.
And they can take the bus too.
Take the bus, right. Yep.
Okay.
146.1, trauma-informed approach. This is an update to an existing policy. The board and the district recognize that trauma can have an impact on a child's education. How we approach trauma is extremely important with our children to make sure that they do have access to our educational programming. So what this update does is it adds language in the authority section with our recent update to a new policy with threat assessment policy. It pulls language off the threat assessment that we would move through similar steps through the threat assessment for a child experiencing trauma, and then also requires the district to focus on the understanding of the child's background in order to assess the behavioral issues while addressing the needs of the student. So more or less just pulls in some some language from the threat assessments. 220 is student expression and dissemination of materials. We don't have many students who disseminate non-educational types of materials in the schoolhouse. However, this policy governs the students' rights in order to do that. The spirit of this policy is not changed with the language that has been added, but it further regulates materials that could cause a disruption or any type of interruption to the educational programming. It addresses the use of district-owned technology that has been given to the child, so such as an example of email accounts, Chromebooks, and so on. And then it also references language that's contained in School Board Policy 218, which we also recently updated, that discusses off-campus speech. So the off-campus speech is also, there's certain types of off-campus speech that can be regulated by the school district, and then there's other off-campus speech that cannot be, so it ties in language appropriately there as well. Policy 237, electronic devices. Over the past 2 years, we have entered electronic devices into the classroom by issuing Chromebooks to our students. What this policy does is it allows electronic devices to be used in the spirit of educational programming. So under the supervision of the teacher or the adult supervisor in the classroom, allows the opportunity for that teacher or supervisor to have the autonomy to determine whether or not the electronic device is suitable for instruction. It requires that the electronic devices be silenced during the school day, again, to take a look at disruptions and interruptions to the learning process. Any child that would have services written into their 504 service agreement or IEP, certainly that would still be permissible for use of an electronic device. And then at the secondary level, it authorizes the building principal to allow for electronic device usage to be available during in the cafeteria during lunch periods, before school and after school. Other than that, outside those periods, it is the teacher basically in the classroom to determine whether or not the device is acceptable for learning purposes. At the elementary level, it's more or less just on the school bus on the way to and from school. So you can see there how it delineates a little bit between, as students progress in age, there's times where students have the maturity level to use electronic devices for other reasons other than educational purposes. But still at the elementary level, they're still able to be used in the classroom under the teacher's direction. And naturally it prohibits the use in locker rooms, bathrooms, health suites, and other areas where students would be changing. And that's mainly just related to recording devices and being able to take pictures. The last three policies deal with records management. So 800, it's an update to our policy, governs how the district retains and purges information, whether it's electronic or paper-based. There's certain documents that we need to hold for 6 years, 7 years, and there's some documents that we need to retain up to 50 years based on PA school code. So it emphasizes the compliance then with state, federal, and local policy, and then also incorporates language to reduce the risk of data breach of any sensitive type of data, especially personal type of data. There's an update to food service in 808. Basically, it shifts the responsibility of monitoring the food service account from the superintendent to the business manager. In speaking with Mr. Bealby, it makes more sense with the way that the funds are managed to fall under his jurisdiction. It outlines the acceptable use of cafeteria funding and how those funds can be transferred between one fund and another. But generally, all cafeteria funds have to be allocated towards the cafeteria. The district is able to allow advances to the food service program, and then when acceptable use of sending it back to the district, then it can be put back into the specific fund that we need to put it back into. And it also contains language on students who are delinquent on accounts, just takes into account how we go back and collect those delinquent obligations from students. And basically what that does is it avoids embarrassment, harassment, and those types of things. And aligns basically with what our current practice is. Data governance, 830 and 830.1, both of those very similar to each other. It's the protection of data that's stored electronically and paper-based. Again, takes a look at the breach of sensitive and secure data. It basically commits the board and the district to approach our data governance with fidelity and integrity. It does require some admin regulations to be put in place to develop a record management plan and then also a records retention schedule. And both of those policies then refer back to those administrative regulations. As far as making sure that we're compliant, it's a business manager, superintendent, and supervisor of technology that oversee adherence to these two policies. So for many of these policies, we'll continue to write administrative regulations. Administrative regulations basically take the policy and interpret it into procedure for administrators, teachers, and all employees to be able to execute the policy in the spirit in which it's intended. The other piece that is on the board agenda tonight is the proposed final budget. We do have a proposed final budget for the board to approve tonight. The proposed final budget is in the amount of $33,505,069. By PA school code, we're required to place that document out for public inspection prior to our next voting meeting. So we will make sure that the proposed final budget is listed on our district website and will also be available in each three of our main offices at all three of our buildings for public inspection. Any questions on any board policy or the proposed final budget that is on the agenda tonight? Very good. And the last portion of my presentation is the fun part. We have Mr. Mark Priori with us this evening. Mr. Priori has been a music teacher at Grafton Elementary School for many years. And 26 years. And one thing I appreciate about Mark is when you see him, one thing you just noticed there, it's a smile. The relationship that he builds with his kids is terrific. I've seen him on the stage, on the playground, at times taking classes outside. It's really neat to watch him. There was one time you're out there with hula hoops and some different things with the kids and doing all kinds of neat things to engage them. He's an avid supporter of the arts, very fine music instructor. And Mark, quite honestly, it's going to be a challenge for us to find somebody that has that compassion, that drive, and that commitment to excellence, and somebody who embraces the arts and shares it and certainly makes a great difference on the kids here at Carleton. So thank you for your years of service here. Wasn't sure if you had a jingle for us tonight or anything you wanted to share.
Maybe a few words. That's very kind what you said. I'm very fortunate to have been here and through my great part of my life, and this place will always have a place in my heart. We have so many wonderful people and staff, administrators, board members that make up our district, and I always think of this quote. It's a little bit of a paraphrase, but the core of any enterprise must be caring, kindness, and compassion. And my teacher, one of my teachers and great mentors, Bernie Goldberg, he was flutist with the Pittsburgh Symphony, and he played with Pablo Casals. I don't know if any of you are big classical music fans, but Pablo Casals led the Marlborough Orchestra, and that was his quote. And Bernie always, he would mention that. And he was very down. My mentors have given me a lot through the years, and they were no excuses. You know, make it happen.
Mhm.
You know, if something's not going the way it should be, you need to look at what you're doing. And they were tough, but I think that was the right approach. What do I need to do to make things happen? And when I grew up, we were taught, you know, he who is without sin throw the first stone. And think about what we're doing. Unfortunately, the world has changed a lot. And now we have so many people, as we see all the time on the news, etc. They're ready to pick up stones and throw as many as they can, unfortunately. We've sort of gone, our society has taken some bad turns, unfortunately. We live in some very tough times. So I appreciate the intense responsibility that all of you have, and your words have been very kind. I will take those with me. It gives me a good feeling. And it seems like this is the start of a tradition to bring the retiring teachers in. And tradition is the core of our school, it's of our society. So I hope this is a tradition that is starting and continues, and it is important closure for anybody that's entering, well, anybody that's leaving.
Mhm.
And I hope to see you all at some point outside of the district. I'm certainly have a lot of pursuits ahead of me, and I wish you all the very, very best
Thank you.
at
Mark.
Carlington.
Carlington's always a home to you. We'll always have you back whenever you want to come back and work with the kids. You're here with your wife and sister? From what
This is my mother, Anna. Some of you met her already. She, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it tonight because we had some cataract surgery this morning. So, well, she made it. She's a trooper. She's tough. So she's 85, and you know,
58.
58. And I owe so much to her as my mentor, because what would we do without, even as my age, what would we do without our parents and our families? So. And my sister-in-law's here, Beth, and we have a whole family full of teachers. She taught at Woodland Hills for many years.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic teacher. And my brother, who I'm very proud of, he teaches at Kiski in music. So we have a big tradition in our family of doing that. And, I have a habit of blabbering on, so I'm going to just leave it at that.
Well, our tradition is to take a break, and we have some items over here in your honor to enjoy. So we have some shrimp, we have some wingdings. What else do we have, Ryan? We have
charcuterie board, some brownies, cookies.
Wow. That's a fantastic tradition. That should definitely
so we are not permitted to dig in until you
Oh.
lead us in that
Oh,
process.
for goodness sake. Don't worry about that. There's
And
plenty of things.
Ryan, no skim milk.
So at this time, we'll take a
Take a recess.
and we'll celebrate.
Full recess.
Has everybody consumed enough? Good. Mark, thank you again. Congratulations. Keep eating.
Appreciate it.
Take leftovers.
It's
There's
fantastic.
go containers over there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good thought. Thank you. Everybody good enough? We need to officially bring back a meeting.
We need the time start.
All right,
8:05, you got it written down, right?
and we are back.
And our final administrative report is from Dr. Surtee, mental health and school psychology update.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm just going to go through some of our data of this year and summarize what we know so far. So this school year, our evaluations for special education and 504s went up immensely. Last year, around this time, we had about 93 evaluations completed. This year we have 141 and we're projected to be at 172 by the end of this school year. So we went up about 80 evaluations. So it's definitely been pretty tough in regards to getting those done on time. We've had a great contract with Wesley to help us and support us getting those done and staying with our timelines. Unfortunately, we've been able to do that. But we've definitely needed a lot of extra support and hands on deck for that. A lot of the evaluations are coming from 504 evaluations too. A lot of school-based anxiety, a lot of social anxiety, depression symptoms are definitely on the rise as well. So we've seen a huge increase in that, especially at the high school and at Carnegie. The evaluation numbers have skyrocketed in both of those buildings. In particular, Crafton did go up, but not at the same rate as the other two buildings. The next is just looking at our risk assessments and threat assessment data across the district. We've also seen a significant increase in this data as well. At this point in the high school year, we've had 36 risk assessments, I can't speak, I'm sorry, 5 threat assessments, 23 emergency psychiatric evaluations that resulted from the risk assessments that were completed, 8 extended hospitalization stays, which that's more than a week long stay, and 8 partial hospitalizations. A partial hospitalization is when a student goes to another location. Most of our students go to Wesley Family Services. It's during the school day, and they receive mental health services for the school day. We transport them there and back. So we've had 8 students there from the high school. At Carnegie, we've had 9 risk assessments, 2 threat assessments, 7 emergency psychiatric evaluations, 3 extended hospitalizations, which is pretty high for an elementary level, and 1 partial hospitalization. Our numbers are lower at Crafton. We've had 4 risk assessments, but no hospitalizations or threat assessments at this time. Overall, we're at about 49 risk assessments district-wide so far this school year, which is significantly more than last year.
Dr. Cerny, on the last slide, could you explain the big difference between Carnegie and Crafton?
So there's a big difference between Carnegie and Crafton, but when I look
Just
at
demographics or what?
when I look at the high school, it evens out. So I've looked to see where it's coming from. Is it still that huge gap? Is it more students from Carnegie? Is it more from Crafton? I think a large part of at Crafton and versus Carnegie is now that we have access to more mental health support, students have more resources to share what they're thinking. A lot of them are going to the chill room and over time feeling like they can open up and they're more willing to talk about those things. So I'll be interested to see if those numbers go up, not necessarily because there's an increase in mental health needs, but people are more willing to talk about it and seek help for it. The recognition is there. So I think that may play a part. And then I also think if you look at our population at Carnegie, we also have a lot of students that are coming from all over the world in different countries, and they're coming from war-torn countries, and they just experienced such trauma when they're coming. And we have students that are just more of a transient population at Carnegie too. So our students have been to multiple school districts, and they're coming in and out, and they're making new friends. I think if you would look at the numbers, it's probably higher in Carnegie than Crafton. And at those young ages, when you're coming in and you're trying to make new friends, especially that 5th and 6th grade year, and you're bouncing around, it's really hard.
So in so many ways, those higher numbers are positive.
It's positive that we're talking and we're recognizing it, and we have the programs to deal with it at this point. So I do think there is some positive
Good.
in that. So now I'm just going to go through some of the programs we've put in to try to address those increasing numbers. So the student assistance program is something we've had. It's a state-run program that each school district has. It looks to target all at-risk students, whether that's academically, emotionally, socially. If we look at the numbers, this year at the high school, we had 120 referrals to SAP, but we only received 60 permissions back for SAP, which is a much lower number than we're used to having. We're still referring a lot of students, but the parent permission form coming back is at a lower rate. But of the 60 students that we did get permission back for, parents also gave permission for mental health screenings to be completed, and they were set up with mental health services and supports. At Carnegie and Crafton, we don't have the exact number of students referred. Most of those happen in parent-teacher meetings, so it's harder to keep track of the exact number, whereas at the high school, it's all kind of filtered through the SAP team and then out. Whereas at the elementary levels, it's more natural in meetings with parents, and we're talking and presenting those things. But there's 38 students participating at Carnegie and 36 at Crafton. And they're pretty consistent with the number of students receiving mental health screenings, with 9 at Carnegie and 8 at Crafton. The next is our school-based outpatient therapy. Currently at the high school, we have 54 students receiving outpatient therapy. At Crafton Elementary, there's 15. We currently use Wesley Family Services. Next year, that will be the CHILL project. And that will open us up to having a lot more availability, because there will be someone on staff 5 days a week versus 3 days a week, so that number should grow. And at Carnegie right now, we're maxed out. The person's caseload is at 36 students, so there's currently a waiting list both at Carnegie and the high school. The next is new data that we started running through the CHILL project. So at the high school, our new children educator, she's really great at data. So she has live data that she feeds, that I can view at any time, of how many students are coming in, how long they're there, why they're there. So as you can see here, the first one just talks about total number of drop-ins, and this is since she started, which was mid-February. She's seen 494 students. This is not including lunch, so 494 students not during lunch, and also 546 during lunch. So over 1,000 students at this point she's seen. So of those students, it's about 129 students. So it's not always the same students. It is a variety of students that are coming in. The average visit time is 17 minutes. This is something we've worked on a lot at the high school, because students often want to stay all day if possible. And I would too in the cabin. Sometimes I want to go hide in there. But she's really brought that number down, so the average is now 17 minutes. Drop-ins, that is not during lunch, is about 9 students that are coming there for support. And average monthly is about 124. And that's out of 57 days of the school year. We'll go through the thermometer data later, but what they do when they come in is they fill out a form explaining why they're there. What's the reason? There's a list that they can choose from, or they can select other and expand upon it. And then they rate their level when they come in on a scale from 0 to 5, 5 being the most stressed you could be, and a 0 being calm, cool, chill. And on the days students, they average is a 3.46. That's what they're rating when they come in. They're stressed, but they're still able to function. They don't need to go home. They're not in crisis. When you're at a 4 or 5, that gets to the level of we might need crisis intervention, especially if you're at a 5. They're coming in at about a 3.46, and then after that 17-minute visit, they're rating themselves to be at a 1.59. So they're actually rating a decrease in their own stress each time that they're coming in, and it shows the effectiveness, which is nice. This goes through the data of why students are coming in, and what really surprised me is I feel like I spend so much of my time talking with students about home life stress, but most of the students that are going to the children is school stress. So 158 of them, of the 494, are going because of school stress. Stress in the classroom, then stress about exams, maybe homework assignments about their grades. Also, anxiety in general is pretty high, and peer conflict. And then some just go because of the sensory, they need a break. It's overstimulated, they need a place that's quiet that they can study and that they can calm down. So students are enjoying going for those reasons. This just breaks down that thermometer data a little bit more, and it shows how the students are presented. I'm really stressed, I'm getting stressed, I'm okay, not really stressed, and I'm calm and I'm chill. It shows that the red is before when they first arrive, and the blue is when they leave. So there is a significant decline in the stress levels that they're reporting. And then over here, it just shows the general trend by month, which is pretty consistent. As you can see right now, May is only at 82, but it's because we're only halfway through May. And even April's a little bit lower, but we had spring break, so multiple days were taken off of that month. We'll have that same data in each building next year. Now that we've piloted it, it's way easier, and we'll make it more simpler for students at the elementary level so that they can understand the questions, but it just makes it so much easier to collect data on the effectiveness of the room. I tried to look at Carnegie's data, which is definitely more difficult down there to keep data consistent, mostly because of how it's set up. Currently, she is pushing into every classroom once at least a month. So when you see her numbers, they're really high down here. So the total number is 791, 959. But you think if she's pushing into all the classrooms, she's seeing every student in the building that day or those few days. But her average walk-ins or push-ins is lower, the amount of kids that just show up. I think a lot of that is because it's regulated more by teachers, whereas at the high school, students can kind of stop in when they're walking in the hall. At the elementary level, they're kind of always walked by someone. But what she has a ton of is groups. So she has a ton, and 24 different groups that are run each week that are structured times. So she's seeing kids in a very structured, scheduled period, and then she still has those walk-ins that are crisis-based, but a lot of her work is preventative. And hopefully at the high school next year, we'll try to work to include some more preventative work. We're just trying to kind of get through the crisis side right now so that we can put some of that prevention in. But the elementary school has been doing a great job in just raising awareness of mental health, reducing the stigma, and increasing supports. So this year, Crafton worked with the Chill Mobile pilot program. So they were one of 10 schools that were selected, and the Chill Mobile van came out, and they were there on 3 different occasions. Students got to go onto the van for a lesson and use all the cool Chill Mobile equipment, and then they also pushed in and did mindfulness lessons with all the students, to pretty much give them a little bit of a taste of what the Chill Project will look like there next year. So the next thing that I have been working on this year is once I've been looking at all this data, and it can be pretty depressing to look at, and I tried to find a lot of the trends. And what I found from a lot of the risk assessment data is I'm seeing a ton of girls at the high school level that were lacking connection to staff, to others. I saw a lot of girls that were working against other girls rather than helping build them up. And I also saw a lot of girls that felt like they didn't have hope for the future. They didn't know what future opportunities they had. They feel like they're limited to a very select group of occupations, or that their circumstances would prohibit them from trying different occupations or reaching what they really wanted to do. And also a purpose and understanding what they're learning in class, how that relates to their future goals. A lot of them will come to me and say, I don't understand, I don't want to do geometry when I'm older. Like, what does this have to do with anything? And trying to explain what aspects of geometry could be helpful to them, and really making a purpose in a lot of those classes to try to improve their attendance, improve their connection with staff and with students. So when I look at the data, the majority of those risk assessments are with females at the high school level. And a lot of them feel very isolated and alone in their feelings, but they're all expressing the same feelings. So there's a lot of them feeling and they just don't support each other in it. So one thing I started this year was the Girls Supporting Girls Club. And the initiative has been one to bring girls in to support each other when they're having a hard time. And I've used a lot of the upperclassmen who have gone through different struggles themselves. When I have younger girls that come in to talk to me that might not feel comfortable and they see me just as an adult, and I know I'm not the coolest, they don't always relate to me and they think I'm really lame. But if I bring in an older peer that they can look up to that's already struggled through what they've struggled and say, I went through this, I understand, and I made it through, they react totally different. And they've had such positive experiences. And I really think some of these girls have helped to save some of the other girls' lives and just make them feel like they're not alone in what they're feeling. So a lot of these girls that you see in this picture have kind of taken on a leadership role in the program, and they've helped me with some of the younger students. They'll often come and have lunch in my office, and then throughout the day, I'll pair them with students that might have similar backgrounds or similar issues, or not, even if they're not similar, they can understand and they're empathetic and can approach and say, you know, I've overcome hard things too, and you can do it as well. So as part of that, I've brought these girls, because they are some of the upperclassmen in to help the younger girls, but I also wanted to expose them to opportunities. So I worked with Don Alexander at the elementary school, and he is fantastic with all of his connections, and he set us up to go on our first field trip, which was to Braddock, and we got to go to the Free Store and see that initiative. We got to go to a brewery that was actually one of these was a woman, and it's a very rare for women to own breweries. She talked about how she overcame that stigma and how she works in a business that is run and dominated mostly by men, and talked to them about all the logistics of everything that goes into owning businesses and marketing and everything. We went to a great, it's a new apartment building that is a subsidized apartment building for artists, an upcoming artist, and it has studios for all these artists to be able to create their art and then promote their art. So we got to go there and see and talk to some of the artists that are living there currently. We went to a salon and got to talk with all the women there, So a lot of our students are interested in pursuing different beauty sides of things. Some want to be estheticians, some want to go into different hair styling businesses or eyelashes. So we got to talk about all the different ins and outs of that. And then we also got to see a fitness trainer, and she put us through a little workout. And it was a really great time. So they really got exposed to different opportunities, and all of the women that presented had been through something. They didn't come from perfect backgrounds. They've all overcome struggles, and they talked about that, how they overcame it and how they got to where they were. And a lot of them had unique journeys and find their own path and how you could do that. So we did that trip. We then, on the next slide, will show the Women's Empowerment Summit. So after that, we worked with Mr. Alexander to bring 5 women in to Carnegie Music Hall. And they came in to speak about their own professions. We had a professor from Pitt. We had a chef that has won all kinds of awards worldwide come in. We had the owner of Carnegie Coffee. We had Tressa Glover, I always say her last name wrong. She runs Yins Are Good podcast. She also owns some theaters and has a production company. So they all came and spoke about their journeys to not just the girls at the high school, but also Crofton Carnegie girls in 5th and 6th grade were included. And then after that, we had an event where they could make these little, oh, you can actually see I have them, pins. It's like Girls Supporting Girls, or Unite, Women of the World, and they got to actually make them like a pin press. And all the girls had to eat lunch together. The high school girls went around and we had them talk with all the younger girls, and they really bonded. And it was funny because some of the high school girls came up to me and they said, "Middle school girls are mean." I was like, I know, they scare me too. And so it was just so funny to hear them say it, because I have known them since they were middle school, and they were those scary middle schoolers. They're tough. And then they went up and they had heard one girl came and saying I've been being bullied, and they actually went and like mediated this bullying issue between these girls unprompted. And then they were like, we need to run these days. We want to do a day for girls, and they want to do a field day type event where it's building girls up and teaching them how to relate. And they're like, there's a real mean girl problem in middle school. I'm like, yeah, that's middle school. It's basically like the definition of mean girls. But they are now looking back on these same girls that I worked with in their middle school doing the same exact thing, like, oh wow, we need to change this. But we're gonna have groups, and we're gonna separate them all into groups, and don't get to pick their groups, don't get to pick their partners. And I'm like, how do you like it when we do that to you? And they were like, oh, is that how you do it? And I'm like, yeah, it's because you guys are mean to each other too. But it was so funny because they took a leadership perspective. I think they got to see how teachers feel when they're making groups in class and everything, and they really enjoyed it. But they all took a really big initiative in wanting to support the younger girls. So we're hoping to build upon that next year and get down there maybe once a month, bring some of the girls in to maybe support either during the pause class or the E&I enrichment class, so we can pair them up for mentoring to start bridging that gap and just letting people know they're not alone. Some of the other things that are exciting coming up, the Yins Are Good podcast, which was by Tressa Glover. She did 2 podcasts on the Women's Empowerment Summit, so her episode 85 and 86 talked some about that summit. You can hear clips of the summit and what some of the women said. And also at the summit, the girls all talked about who they're thankful for and other people in their lives. So she plays and reads some of the notes that they wrote about who they're thankful for and who changed their life. We'll also have an upcoming episode that will feature the Girls Supporting Girls Club. So we have 2 students that volunteered. I was really proud of them because they were super anxious students, but they decided to share their story and how supporting each other and coming together has really changed their life. We're going to have an upcoming field trip for some of the girls to go to Chatham University. Mr. Alexander made a great connection with someone at Chatham that's trying to do recruiting that's looking for at-risk girls to start joining their program, and was talking about the funding and how it can actually be cheaper to go to Chatham than it can be to go to CCAC. So they're looking to expand that and take the girls out to understand some of the college options as well, since we've done a lot of the business route already. We're also looking to start a men's mental health group coming up. Actually, a student come and he talks about his father really struggling with mental health and how he thinks if there was a mental health group for men when he was younger and the stigma wasn't as bad, that maybe his life would be different and his dad's life would be different, and he wants to stop kids before they get to the point that he's witnessed his father. So he would like to found that group and push it to the elementaries as well. And he's a really cool kid. I think he'll do a great job. And I have some other boys I'm trying to get in there. We have to come up with a cool name, so if anyone has any suggestions, no one wants to join the men's mental health club, but anything something cool, that'd be great. And then also we have several students that have asked, we've had some diversity clubs, but they really want to go into more also exploring all the languages, all the different types of diversity, and trying to have events that brings inclusion, and running those events in school so everyone recognizes and understands others' cultures and celebrates it. We're planning to expand the mentoring program from the junior, senior high to the elementary schools. The Chill Project will be being added at Crafton, which I'm very excited for. And then the new PAWS position at the elementary will really allow us to facilitate a lot of this interaction from the junior high to and the senior high to the elementary schools, and also expand some of these field trips and other opportunities that we've been able to do here with Mr. Alexander when he's, just doing it for the fun of it, when he actually has time to devote to that position. So I think that's going to bring a ton of opportunities for our students. So some of the good things to look out for. Any questions?
So, I really like how you, kind of the second half of your talk was about things you're doing to address the problems that, and I'm really glad to see that you folks are able to get data on, whether it's through the Chill program or whatever, and address those issues directly with good facts from the data. But I gotta say, it's heartbreaking to see so many young women in our schools just
It's really
having
hard.
those
But I think
issues,
the men
yeah.
are struggling too. I think they just express it differently. Like if I would look at the discipline log for the men, I think it might be just as high. I think they're more externalizing in their frustrations, whereas the girls are holding it in and expressing it this way. But I've also had an increase in men or boys coming in speaking with me as well.
Mhm.
It's just they're more cautious in what they say and how they say it. But there's definitely still issues in that population as well. I think as I expand some of these groups to them, it might be helpful to see how we can help them as well. I tried to keep data on the students coming in my office as well, just so we could look at that. And I did it for 11 days. And in 11 days, I had 80 kids in my office for crisis. So it's the kids that would be at the 4 or the 5. That's when they get to me. So the chill is like the 3s, I'm almost stressed. 4 or 5 is when you come to me. So we were just spending like our whole day is our mind and the mental health arena is just trying to kind of uplift. So these programs I'm hoping can reduce the crisis time, put the preventative measures in place. But this is kind of what keeps everyone going. And I've seen a lot of the kids that I was seeing constantly for crisis. Now I see them for good things. And they're still coming by just as much, but it's positive, which is not what I was seeing for a long time. So I think we're heading in the right direction. Still a ways to go, but the last time I talked, I was feeling, I think when I was here, very helpless. I have some hope now, and I'm seeing kids kind of get through it. And I have an idea and a vision of how we can get them through it now. Just took a little bit at a time, so.
Well, thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you for your support.
Think positive.
Thank you. I like that. We need signs.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Straker.
very much.
All right, that concludes our administrative reports.
Hard to follow up after that, but we'll shift to our committee reports. Dr. Allen, anything on Parkway you want to? Director? I hope I tried to say director.
Yes, I do. So we had our meeting on the 2nd of May at Parkway. Just a few numbers for you here. It's early days, but it looks like there are currently 160 more kids applying to the programs at Parkway than are graduating, so it continues to grow out there. We run a summer camp where kids can come and explore different program options out there. Last year they had 300 students. So far this year there's 500 students registered for those summer camp programs, so I figured that more will continue to come in as the school year comes to a close. The audit report for the financial statements for Parkway came back clean. It was an unqualified opinion, which is, what you want. And some of you will remember Ray Wolkowiak from his time as the school board director here at Carleton. Ray retired from Hussey Copper, I think it was, and took a job at Parkway as the buildings and maintenance director, or facilities director, and he's done some really great things out there. He will be retiring from Parkway in December, so it's going to be tough to replace. Then also the masonry program that the Masons Union is building a building for. It doesn't look like it's going to be open for the fall of '24. They've had some cost increases on the building, and it looks like they'll get through it, but it's going to take a little while longer. So, and finally, I will be at the Parkway West commencement exercises tomorrow evening. So.
Sorry.
I was just hoping to stay quiet, sorry. Yeah, so I'll be there tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to representing the board out there. So that's all I have, thanks.
Joe, congratulations on your kids, the culinary kids at Taste of Carleton.
Yeah, how about that?
Excellent.
Oh, I should tell you, thank you for reminding me. So they had the cutting board, was the trophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had that displayed, they had a slideshow going on, and the kids who were at Taste of Carleton were at the board meeting, which was just the next night, but, and so they got to be bragged on a little bit, and, yeah, it was great, yeah, so, thanks.
They act so professionally.
They are looking forward to
when they
coming back
made
next
their
year.
foods.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and if some of you remember the theme of the sliders were like Asian, and so they had the dragon. So the welding students made that. And it was a group effort, and really raised the bar for our valued restaurant and catering participants too. So kids brought it.
All right, thanks. Dr. Hunchar, any Pathfinder updates?
Pathfinder, because of Carleton's change of schedule in April, I've given the prior Pathfinder, the April meeting. Tomorrow night we'll have our May meeting, so I'll do that next month. But our graduation is going to be on Monday, June the 5th at 10 a.m. But there are no Carleton kids.
Okay, thank you. Shazda, Director Zaleski. Okay. Legislative PSBA, last time was the last one?
Exciting. So I think there's a few House bills to just keep an eye out for. They're addressing teacher shortages. One is House Bill 141. It's called Grow Your Own Educators Program, and basically it's going to equip aspiring educators with the supports necessary to ultimately become a certified educator, as well as House Bill 688, which is the PA Teacher Pipeline Scholarship. That is grants up to $8,000 per academic year will be available to students who attend a higher education institution that are studying education or another program to help prepare them to become a teacher. So I think teacher shortages is kind of something that a lot of schools are looking at, so I think that's something interesting to keep an eye out on. As well as, let's see, both of those, by the way, were passed in the House, so now they're off to the Senate. This one was passed in the Senate, off to the House, and it is Senate Bill 647, Financial Literacy Course Requirements, and basically it's to mandate students 9 through 12 to complete a half course credit in personal financial literacy as a graduation requirement. I think that's kind of interesting. They pointed out that 21 other states already require this. And what would entail that class is how to manage a credit card, borrow money from an auto or large purchase, home mortgages, and credit scoring, credit reports and whatnot. So I think that's some real life experience that would be exciting for our students if that is passed. And then some PSBA things that we can submit our proposals for the PSBA 2024 legislative platform if we are interested. That to submit your proposals is open through June 30th, as well as PSBA officer nominations are being accepted through May 31st. If anyone is interested in becoming one of the next leaders of PSBA, you're encouraged to submit your application on their website. And lastly, COSBA is doing a webinar to explore the issue of food insecurity and how it impacts children and families across the U.S., along with practical steps of how school districts can address that. So I will be attending that on June 20th, and I can report back on that because I think that's also something that we see a lot in some school districts. Other than that, that's all I have.
Cool, thank you. Thanks for your first report.
Thanks, yeah.
One thing just to add on the Grow Your Own pipeline, so there have been successful models across the United States and other states for teacher apprenticeship training programs. The state, Pennsylvania is a state apprenticeship agency, so it doesn't go through the federal requirements, but the state apprenticeship and training office has a current RFP out for a consultant to help build a teacher apprenticeship model here in the Commonwealth. So that would be a para to teacher pipeline. I'll keep folks posted as that NDA is awarded.
Foundation?
Foundation, we have not had a meeting since Taste of Arlington, but you know, I just wanted to thank everybody here who came and supported the event. You know, I think it was very successful. We, you know, it was so nice. I'll echo, you know, what everybody else said, to have the Parkway kids there and see their enthusiasm, and I think it's really great when we can, you know, have other programs involved in it as well, like the welding, and it meant a lot to them. And Mr. Bill Bilby had a good night with his 50-50 raffle win. Don't think we saw you sneak out of there before you got to buy us all drinks with that.
It's going to the daughter's wedding fund.
But no, I just, you know, it was so nice to have that event again, and I think it was very successful, and just appreciate everybody's support. And if you didn't make it to this year, hopefully, you know, that you'll make it to the next one. So, thank you.
It was fantastic. The whole foundation did an amazing job. So good to see the community come out. It was, so many of the Carlington staff was there, and teachers. It was, super. So, thank you. Any other questions or comments on any of the committee reports? Heads up, I'll bring up personal finance under old business. Got it. Dovetailing off of Director Vogliano's report. So pending, it's passed the Senate but not the House yet. Is that what the personal finance bill?
Personal finance past Senate goes into House now.
Okay, cool. We'll revisit that later. Very good. If no other questions, we'll move on to the miscellaneous section of our agenda. We have, I think, 3 items under section 4 miscellaneous, so I'll entertain a motion to approve number 1, the 2023-2024 cost reimbursable contract with Aramark as submitted. Number 2, the 23-24 AIU Title III Consortium Memorandum of Understanding as submitted. And number 3, 23-24 AIU Comprehensive Services Agreement as submitted. I have a motion for those 3 items under section 4.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 5, finance, we have 7 items. I'll entertain a motion to approve number 1, excuse me, the bills from April 28th through May 12th, 2023 in the amount of $593,805.06. Number 2, the following reports as reflected in the May 2023 financial reports packet: the April 2023 Treasurer's Report, Investment Report, Board Summary Report, Athletic Fund Report, and the Junior Senior High School Activities Fund Report. Number 3, the proposed final budget for the 23-24 school year with the final adoption date of June 20th, 2023 as attached. Number 4, the proposed 2023-24 administrative budget of the South Central Area Special Schools Jointure, SCASSC, as submitted. Number 5, motion to appoint Jude Frank as treasurer of the school board for the term of 1 year beginning July 1st, 2023. And number 6, the resolution between the district and the Allegheny Intermediate Unit authorizing participation in the AIU's joint purchasing program and appointing Keith Bilby as the primary representative and Joshua Kuchner as secondary representative. And then finally, number 7, motion to award the bid for the 23-24 collective school district athletic and trainer supplies as follows. BSN Sports, $9,555.23. Century Sports, $69,272.19. MF Athletics, $933. Cribbin School Products, $67.09. Riddell All-American Sports Corp., $40. Do I have a motion for those 7 items under?
Second.
Right, moved and seconded, thank you. Any questions or comments for any item?
Regarding the budget,
Yes.
I think it's worth pointing out to the public and anyone listening at home that in our committee meeting last week, we discussed it at length and we'll continue to discuss it until it's passed.
Good point. So we discussed it last time, and then we will review it again, Dr. Kreider, at our June meeting when we have to do the final approval. Keith, do you have an intent to?
On June 13th, we'll once again, we'll go over the final budgets, make sure that there was, if there's any changes from, tweaking in when contracts are coming in and, revenues that we're getting. And then on the 20th, I plan on just doing a a small overview of the budget, not terribly in depth, but just so that everybody in the public knows exactly what's in the budget.
And refresh everybody's memory, what kind of tax increase are you projecting for that?
Right now, we haven't projected, right now, this budget is balanced, it doesn't have a tax increase in it, but like I said, from now until June 3rd or 20th, we will be tweaking it, and then at that point, I think that will be safe to, I don't want to say.
Fingers crossed.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. Right now, it's balanced without a tax increase.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
And as we don't record our committee meeting minutes, the minutes from that discussion are linked to this agenda. So if anybody wants to read the in-depth discussion from the committee last month, it's here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Director
And
Ryan.
just a reminder, the proposed final budget will be on the website and also hard copy available in each of the main offices.
Excellent. Good points, everyone. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 6 Personnel, we have 5 items. I'll entertain a motion to approve number 1, to eliminate a kindergarten teacher position at Carnegie Elementary within the CFT Collective Bargaining Unit. Number 2, to create a grade 1 teacher position at Carnegie Elementary within the CFT Collective Bargaining Unit. Number 3, to eliminate a grade 2 teacher position at Crafton Elementary within the CFT Collective Bargaining Unit. Number 4, to create 1 grade 1 teacher position at Crafton Elementary within the CFT Collective Bargaining Unit. Number 5, to approve the personnel agenda as submitted. Do I have a motion for those 5 items under Section 6 Personnel?
So moved.
Moved and second, thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Number 7, student activities. I'll entertain a motion to approve the additions to the list of field trips for the 22-23 school year. Do I have a motion for that single item?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you very much. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 8, Policy Services, we have a few updates. I'll entertain a motion to approve the first reading of policy numbers 137, 137.2, 137.3, 146.1, 220, 237, 800, 808, 830, and 831.1 as submitted. I have a motion for that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you very much. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Old business. Does any director have any old business they'd like to discuss?
I would like to mention that, I know we've talked about the windows at Crafton Elementary in the past, but, boy, it's looking great. I was over today, just taking a look and seeing, how things are going with the voting, as we did the, online learning day for students at that school, since we have to have, people in the building to vote. It looked like everything was going well, but I will say that the guys that were working on the windows and the doors were doing a really great job. Mrs. Burleson told me that they are in constant contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact with her. Contact with her, 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 contact.